Welcome to Coaches Roundtable. I'm Head Codi, and welcome our guest, Butler High School Athletic Director Bill Mylan. And Bill, the big news, of course, is that Butler is going to return to District 7 WPIAL 6A in football in 2024. And this is part of I was surprised to read this, part of a settlement of legislation with the PIAA. And so in those terms, Butler remains in District 10 for the 2023 season, but under PIAA bylaws, the WPIAL and District 10 have said that they will not approve of Butler playing in District 10 for the 2024 season. Did this come as a surprise to you?
Not really. We knew we were going to get some pushback on this when we won our court hearing, so we kind of figured something might be in place. And when they put that new bylaw in, it was going to prevent us from being a member of one district and then playing a different schedule in another sport. We knew that was probably going to come into play, and it did.
So the options there, as you mentioning, you could challenge them in court again, but Superintendent Brian White says he'd rather not do that. So that left you with the two options. You could play an independent schedule, which is pretty tough scheduling, right? Hard to get maybe more than a half dozen games.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about finding competitive games, number one, and then finding geographically something that fits, that we're not spending in an absorbent amount of money traveling to different locations to try to get games. So those two factors were pretty key.
So now the option, you've decided to return to WPIAL 6A in 2024. How do you feel about being prepared? The last 2 years prior to going to District 10, you were winless in conference play. You feel you're better suited now to return?
Well, the two main reasons to why we left was, number one, to be more competitive, and number two, we felt like we had a safety factor going on. That last game against Central Catholic a couple years ago, we had like 19 players suited up. So those two things were the main factor for us making the jump over to District 10 and having that scheduling marriage with them and being able to play in that. So we just felt like in the last couple years, we've made some very, very positive strides. I probably would have liked to have seen maybe another 2-year cycle for us to see, to make sure that we're on stable ground. But, to avoid further litigation, to keep our program moving in a positive manner, we felt like this was the best move at this time.
Years ago when I had Tim O'Malley on, executive director of WPIAL, I mentioned him what Florida does. Every number of years, they realign everyone, not on enrollment, on winning and losing. So my perspective, I said this on a show a week ago, I'd start Butler back in 4A, then move them to 5A the second year, and then gradually into 6A. And then, I mean, there are people who say, well, you're assuming the 4A and 5A are necessarily easier, which they are not,
No.
really. But what do you think about an idea like that, to ease yourself back in?
So part of the agreement was that we could be involved in some conversations regarding relegation, which we feel is the opposite of what they have in place now, which is a competitive success formula where they move teams up. And I think everybody that is a football fan's familiar with what happened with Aliquippa and them trying to make them move up several classifications. What we brought to the table was, what about the teams that are struggling in their classifications? And if they meet certain criteria over a number of years, could they be allowed to drop down a classification to get their program back on track? So the PIAA has agreed to do that. And if they talk about that topic, we are going to be involved in that conversation.
So you could start at a lower classification, possibly.
I doubt it's going to happen for the next cycle, but that's something that we'd like to talk with the PIAA and see if that can be something that they can look at in their strategic committee and see if it's something maybe that would work out down the road.
I mean, there's so many things involved here. I remember when I was talking to Mr. O'Malley, Farrell in the 90s was part of the WPIAL. They left every sport. They come back. They decided to leave again. 2014 or 15, they wanted to come back to WPIAL, and they told them, no, we're not letting you back. And it looks like that's a permanent decision. Was that part of the discussion at all? Were you worried or concerned about that?
Some. I felt like we had a pretty stable relationship with them in terms of our other sports. We're pretty successful in everything else we do. It was just our football program that we were trying to get back on track. So we felt like that was the main reason. We didn't want to completely leave the WPIL because, as I mentioned earlier,
That
we've been
traveling would have been brutal.
yeah, it would have been brutal, and we just felt like we're competitive in everything else. We just wanted to take some time and try something to make our football program more competitive.
Well, I know 6A, talking to people, they're struggling and looking for more teams to come in. Now, the PIAA has said starting in 2024, you start counting VOTEC
Correct.
students. So that's even going to push our enrollment up. But what does that mean about bringing some other teams on a fringe back into 6A? Like, does North Hills come back in? Does Upper St. Clair come back in? I don't know about Pine Ridge. Do they have VOTEC programs in some of these other schools?
Yeah, so that's the rumor mill right now is that some of these schools are going to be moved up in classification, and that's our hope. We're hoping that maybe there's some more schools that move up into 6A that we can be more competitive with, and that will also help us move forward in a more positive manner as well.
So if I remember at one time, weren't there like 12 or 14 teams in
Yeah,
6A?
yeah.
So you had two divisions, and then you had right now with 6 teams in it. Everyone's almost one team's getting knocked out of the playoffs.
Yeah,
You're going to play one another again a
right.
second time.
Exactly. It's sort of redundant in some ways because you've played all these teams and then you're right back playing the same teams again. So our hope is that does come true with the VOTEC numbers and that there's more 6A football teams. And that'll help us be more competitive as well. We're hoping there'll be some more teams moved into that classification.
Have you looked at some of the numbers, some of the schools you might project it would be bounced back into?
Well, you've got
6?
teams. There's a couple teams. Maybe like Shaler and some schools like that. Maybe move back in Fox Chapel. We don't really know what schools and what numbers, but we're hoping that there's a few of them that will come back in.
So what will this mean for scheduling going back into 6A? Right now, you would be the 7th team. So you have 6 games there. So the other 4 games, you're on your own, or the WPIAL will schedule 3 of them for you?
Well, I think what happened last year, and again, I wasn't intimately involved with this because we weren't in the WPIL scheduling, but I think they did give them some games with 5A schools, and I think
Yes.
they did allow them to also schedule 1 or 2 games. So I think if there's 4 games left as it stands right now, maybe we'd have the opportunity to schedule 2, and then they would give us 2 from the 5A.
Yeah, because last year we 5A Pine Richland was scheduled against both Central Catholic, Seneca Valley, and North Allegheny.
Mhm.
And you looked at their schedule in the beginning, you said, how are they going to survive? Well,
Yeah.
the last game they lost, we did, the Seneca Valley, they went on to win the WPL and a state. So you'll have some say-so about your schedule, but with this change in VOTEC, it should really make things better.
We're
when you come
hoping,
back.
and we're hoping that there'll be at least maybe 10 to 12 teams once this new counting system comes into place as far as VOTEC students are concerned. And if that's the case, then it makes it, I think, a little bit more better for us from a scheduling standpoint. So,
How much of a discussion was there between yourself, school solicitor, and Dr. White about possibly challenging these bylaws?
well, it was definitely considered, but to avoid further negative publicity with the program, to avoid further litigation, and to keep our program moving forward in a positive manner, we felt this was probably the best move.
Now, how much of what transpired here did you meet with the football team? I'm sure you talked with Coach Eric Christie about it, but how about meet with the players? What's their attitude towards this?
Well, I think we've kind of left that up to the coaching staff. I know Eric has had some talks with him. We're going to continue to have some meetings to help us transition back into the WPIL. We're hoping to get, not only faculty and staff administration involved, but hopefully some people from the community and continue to find ways to improve our program and support them in a positive manner.
Bill, most of the Butler fans that I've talked to and run into, they reacting in a positive way to Butler going back into WPL 6A because of the long tradition of playing all these teams. You played Seneca Valley last year. I'm assuming you're going to be at Seneca Valley
Correct.
coming this year. So interesting things developing. We look forward to being there this September 1st with the Meadville game, which we're going to do live. We're excited about doing that, but always thank you for taking time out to come here and join us.
You're welcome. Thanks.
I'll be right back with Al and George.
Armstrong has been a part of Butler County since 1963. We helped you get online with Zoom Internet. Our Breaking Bread program began fighting hunger in our communities. Enhanced Wi-Fi delivered coverage, security, and control of your network. Zoom Extreme brought internet speeds up to 1 gig to the community. And in 2022, Armstrong was named CableFact's Independent Operator of the Year for the second time. When you support Armstrong, you're supporting your local community.
How do you choose the smart home and security system that's right for your family? The answer is Guardian Protection, a fully integrated system so that all your smart home and security devices work together, like smart locks, smart lights, doorbell cameras, video cameras, and more. And with advanced artificial intelligence technology, Guardian Protection creates a smarter, safer home for you, all controlled from one single app. The right choice for your family.
Business Pro Wi-Fi from Armstrong Business Solutions is more than just Wi-Fi. It enhances productivity, tightens security, and is tailor-made for small business. Take control over guest networks with a branded portal, protect sensitive data, and manage staff with the WorkPass app. Business Pro Wi-Fi gives you customer insight, turning analytics into opportunities. Get a fully connected business intelligence platform in the palm of your hand. Business Pro Wi-Fi from Armstrong Business Solutions.
I'm back, joined to my right by the Swami George Abraham, to my left the Tiger Albert Campman, Butler Athletic Director Bill Mylan, guys talking about Butler's move into WPIAL in 2024 6A, but also he has concern, hoping that they start counting the VOTEC students, that this will push another 3 or 4 schools into 6A along with Butler, so that you have maybe 12 schools now, 2 6-team division, instead of Butler just getting hammered playing Mount Lebanon, NA, Seneca Valley, and Central Catholic in a row.
Yeah, that would help him for sure. It helped me for sure. I sure like when there's more teams in 6A. It drives me nuts that 8, 7 teams, they play each other 3 times.
Yeah, just so it doesn't push up Penn Hills, Woodland Hills, and North Hills.
Yeah. Well, here's the other thing. We didn't mention that VOTEC students are being counted, but none of them are going to play.
Yeah, I don't know.
Say Butler gets another 500 or 600 students added to
I
their
don't
list.
get it.
None of them are going
No,
to
but
play.
this has to be aimed at Southern Columbia, right?
Pardon me?
It has to be aimed at Southern Columbia.
I hope.
Yeah, I mean, what
Well,
else?
and
could it be?
I also think it's a way for them to maneuver and get more school. 6A has been a sore point in the WPIAL. Out in the East, you have 23 6A teams. Here we only have 6. I think this is a way for them to shove some of those teams that have been dropping from 6 to 5. You're going back
in.
up. Yeah. Hey, let's go to Spotlight PIAA swimming finals at Bucknell Boys 2A. Joe Roth, Elwood City, for the second straight year, a gold medal in the 100 backstroke. He was competing against himself, trying to break his own state record.
Yeah, he's sensational. That's all you can say. He's one of the once of a lifetime type athlete.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And another year to go.
Yes.
And in boys 3A, Seneca Valley junior diver Isaiah Clerkley, second place. Seneca Valley senior High-Hand Sue, second in the 100-yard backstroke. He was fourth in the 200 individual medley and a member of the fourth place 200 medley relay team. He finishes his career with 4 WPIAL titles and a member of 3 WPIAL championship relay teams, 7 gold medals, and some silver medals from the state. He said at the Cornell University. What a great career.
Another sensational kid.
Yeah. 3A girls swimming finals. NA girls win their second PIAA team championship in the last 3 years, the 8th in school history. Senior diver Christina she won her 3rd straight PIAA diving title. Sophomore Lola Malarkey, she was 3rd in diving. As senior Lexi Sundgren, 3rd in the 500 freestyle. And junior Natalie Sens, 3rd in the 100 breaststroke. In 2A, Kira Schreckengoss of Freeport, she won 2 medals. 3rd in the butterfly, 6th in the individual medley. Gianna Lavarini of Knock, 3rd in the breaststroke, 8th in the IM. Katie Riot of Monotol, 5th in a 50 freestyle, and also in 2A boys, North Catholic boys, they were 4th in the 400 freestyle and 2nd in the 200 medley relay, and Luke Lamb was 5th in the backstroke. In bowling, state tournament, Butler boys 2nd place behind Manheim Township. It seems like Manheim's involved in everything. Luke Keene rolled a 5 98, Butler girls, they were 7th. Natalie Kaufner, a 522. Freework girls placed 3rd in the state. Hannah Windows named to the all-tournament team. And let's move on to boys basketball in 6A. Reading 72, Newcastle 48. The Canes finished 24-4. They lose 4 starters. Their top seniors are all gone.
Yeah, that was. They're going to have a year or two that they're not used to the way it is right now.
What they win with those seniors? Something like 75 to 80
Oh,
games.
yeah, I'm sure.
And
Yeah.
state championship game they were in, 2 WPIAL championship games, and 1 a WPIAL championship. That's a crew of Boyce, Anderson, Young, and Wallace that, as you said, they're going to miss. And in 5A, second round, Erie Cathedral Prep 66, Mars 54, and senior Tasso Savanas. He finishes with 26 points. He just had a fantastic career there. 17-11 on the season for Mars. 4A, second round.
I want to say Prep's
Yeah.
still going.
Yeah,
That tells you, that's what I'm saying.
That's it. Well,
Yeah,
there's only one game left.
yeah.
Yeah.
Tells how good they were. South Fayette lost to them by 2, so I thought maybe they're not as good. I mean, South Fayette's a nice team,
yeah.
but that tells you how good these
Prep is. Hey, or 4A, second round, North Catholic 78, Valley View 56, Andrew Matalone 24, Max Hurry 23. And then in the quarterfinals, Andrew Matalone sank 2 free throws with 2.5 seconds left to give the Trojans a 54-52 lead over Uniontown. And then Uniontown's Bakari Wallace nailed a 3-pointer 3 feet behind the arc to give the Red Raiders a buzzer-beating 55-54 win.
That's tough.
What a loss.
Tough
That is tough way to
Yeah.
go out.
Max Hurry had 29 points. What a 1-2 punch for the Trojans this year. They finished 21-8.
The good news for North Catholic is they would have been done anyway. Lincoln Park beat Uniontown by 40.
Yeah, isn't that something?
I mean, it's a joke. It's a joke.
And 1A, Imani Christian 80, Union Reimersburg 48, Peyton Johnson with 22, but too much size, power for Imani. Then they played Union of Newcastle again.
Killed them,
It seems like they only play a Union. Every week they're playing Union in some ways.
No, these are actually schools that size,
Yes.
legitimately, not spaghetti warehouse.
You got that right. Hey, 6A girls basketball quarterfinals, Norwin stuns North Allegheny 50-30. It's their 4th meeting of the year. They split. The WPIAL champs finished 22-6. Next up for Norwin, they take on Cedar Cliff 29-0. And in 5A, second round, Erie Cathedral Prep 51, Mars 24. Mars finishes 18-9. And then South Fayette knocked off Prep 40-37.
That tells you South Fayette's really.
That's Villa
good.
Maria, by the way.
Yeah,
Yes.
Villa Maria. We
Yes.
mentioned that.
Uh-huh.
Moved in with
Yes.
Prep.
That's
Yes.
a great win for South Fayette.
Oh boy,
I would say.
you're not lying. That's the place where the coach said he couldn't take it anymore and left.
Yeah, somebody else
Girl-
came. Mhm,
yeah.
mhm.
And 4A, second round, North Catholic 51, Harbor Creek 34, Elena Rocco 17.
Oh.
Then in the quarterfinals, North 60, while missing 27, Elena Rocco 19, Daisha Lewandowski 16, and Tori Dravina 16. Next for North, they take on Blackhawk. Blackhawk beat Knock 38-35. Nina Shaw had 13. Knock finishes 18-10. Quite a year for Knock.
Great.
Outstanding year.
Yeah.
Block and Knock are very similar,
Yeah.
and they knew coming into this game they'll be a major upset if they beat North Catholic.
I would agree. Hey, let's go to our stories of the week. Pitt with wins over Mississippi State, first 4, 60-59, but one of their worst shooting games of the year, but they held on to win.
Let's say something too.
Yeah.
They were they ended up top 32. In other words, they won
Yeah.
one round 64, taking
Yeah.
to 32. That's somewhere where they were, between like 26 and 35. They were not an 11 play-in.
Yeah,
They just weren't.
I would agree. And they beat Iowa State 59-41.
That was a good one.
Then they lost to Xavier 84-73 in this second round. Xavier, very good team, 27-9, coached by Sean Miller.
Yeah.
Played for Pitt, first year at Xavier. So Pitt just got behind too much in the first half. Even though they had a 10-0 run in the second half, it wasn't enough. So they finished 24-12, their best season. I was surprised. Think about it, in 9 years. So an exciting season.
Mhm.
Some of the excitement's back there at the Pete. I think next year the Graham brothers, they're 6'11", they're going to put on 25 or 30 pounds, get bigger. Federico's back. Blake Hinson. I'm not sure about Nike Sabande if he's coming back. I think the future looks pretty good for Pitt with those guys coming back.
I don't.
Why not?
Because they have no guards. And if he brings in,
I don't know who's coming in.
That's what. Well, now I didn't say
I don't
that.
know.
Now, if he brings in 5 guards
Yeah.
to go with them, then all of a sudden it's good again. But I don't. But until you see that happen,
You know what? I
they-
hadn't watched closely all year because they picked 14th though. You have to give them their due. Pick 14th. To
Yeah.
finish. But I tell you what, those Twins can be good. We have a guy at IMG that told us about them. They were a little weak.
You know what's interesting?
One weighs 190 and the other weighs 200.
Yeah.
But here's he was one of the guys. I got George, 3 other coaches told me the first night that they said he can't play. You see how bad this guy is.
Yeah.
And then the second night,
Yeah.
they played good, and they're going to be like that.
It was both of them.
because they're so weak.
Yeah,
I
they
agree
got to
with you.
get
They're so
strong.
weak physically.
They lose Greg Elliott and Nellie Cummings. That's a lot to
Yeah.
lose.
Oh my
them.
gosh, that's their guard.
Now
And Bert,
the transfer portal. Just look at it. Look at UCLA. They don't have one player on their roster that's been there for 4 years.
my thinking is
Not one.
It's done.
Yeah,
That's done.
my thinking this year though will help them get more portal.
I would
players.
think it's a
what I
good
think.
How about the kid from St. Francis? Was their leading scorer, 6'11".
Yeah.
He left. I saw yesterday. Signed with Florida.
Hey, then you see Furman's win over Virginia. Princeton beats Arizona, and then Fairleigh Dickinson University, the smallest team in the NCAA, and number 16 coming into the tournament. Number 16s were 1 and 150. Now they're 2 and 150 as they stunned Purdue, 63-58. Purdue one dimension. Zach Edey, and that's it. No outside shooting. I think their last 4 games they were something like this. Don't hold me to 12 for 76 or
how you
something
lose.
like that shooting.
Yep.
And you notice in a game they didn't even want to shoot.
You got that way late. One kid was shooting in the right corner. Other than that, the rest of them were all hesitating.
Was this the biggest upset all time, NCAA? What was the
Virginia
other
was
one? Was
bad.
it
I mean,
Charlotte?
I-
Virginia,
which
no,
one?
Virginia UMBC.
Yeah.
Charlotte was a preseason tournament.
Okay.
And also Virginia lost by 20. Well, this at least was a closer game. Virginia got killed
Yeah.
by UMBC.
But this is something Purdue struggled with the latter part of their season. Their outside shooting just was non-existent.
Yeah,
And it
all
just
year they
started
shot
to-
pretty good.
Yeah,
and
that's
that's
a
what
good
happens.
point.
Then
That's a
the
good
second
point.
half, it just went down.
And when you lose that confidence,
And their
you're out.
susceptibility to the press
Mm-hmm.
and throwing the ball in the deep corner.
But you know what the coach said, the players said? They were the smallest team, but they thought they could wear Purdue down by running, and trying to force Purdue to try to keep up with them, and it worked. And then they lost to Florida Atlantic. So,
Florida Atlantic was favored though by big
Yeah,
favorite.
yeah, that's a
14
good team.
Yeah.
Beat them 78
I'm going to
to
say
70.
one phrase. We don't play zone. Guess what? You're not playing anymore either.
Yeah. Hey, Arkansas topples Kansas 72-71. Tennessee, surprising. Not that they beat Duke by the margin that they did, controlling the game 65-52. Texas 71, Penn State 66. Great season for Penn State in years. And now the word is Micah Shrewsbury, number 1 on the list to go to Notre Dame.
Yeah,
He's an Indiana guy.
He's in there if they can break out the contract. Yeah.
Oh, they will. They will. Don't you think? And then they get his kid too. So you get a top player. That's good. Hey, you said Duke. They beat them. You forgot one word. They beat them up. Tennessee beat them up.
Yeah, very physical.
Yeah.
Rick Barnes does it.
Yeah.
And wherever he's been.
They do well.
He's
Just
done a
don't
good
get
job.
to the Final Four.
Some of the games, the Sweet 16, some interesting games. The UCLA and Gonzaga, Houston and Miami. You may not think this one's an interesting one. I'm interested in watching Creighton and Princeton.
It's an excellent game.
Yeah.
Excellent game. Yeah, no question. Princeton's playing great.
You know what I'm
81,
noticing? I was saying to George before, watching the
Yeah,
games.
one.
What?
Yeah, Creighton's
all,
playing great too.
yeah, all this dribbling by one guy.
Oh, it's-
I seen 4 guys
That
standing
boat-
around
that boat
watching
left the
everyone
dock.
dribbling.
Yeah,
I know it just drives me
I talk
crazy.
to George about it every time he
That's-
calls me.
that
I
drives
don't,
me
I
crazy.
won't watch it. It's the NCAA tournament, so I watch it.
Yeah, it's.
But I'm gonna watch that. I call it crap.
I see 4
got-
guys standing around and
But
one
every
guy
team
dribble,
does it.
dribble,
It'd be
dribble.
different if just one team.
Yeah,
did
the
it.
only team that does it now is Princeton.
I thought passing was important. I
No,
guess not.
They don't put
Nobody passes. the
only
ball.
one.
Yeah, you do when you get in the lane, kick it.
Yeah.
That's it.
And
It's
let
a
me say
kick.
one good. It's hard, but there is one good thing. Because they don't pass it, they don't turn it over.
And it drives me nuts. Like you're 40 seconds to go left in the game, and a guy's dribbling for 18 or 20 seconds.
Absolutely. That's standard.
Hey, BC3 men, they won their first ever national tournament game, 83-76. This after an 84-81 first round loss to Rochester of Minnesota. The Pioneers finished 21-5. Last year they were 2-16. Great job by Joe Lewandowski.
Absolutely.
NFL, Steelers signed 5 free agents. Defensive back Patrick Peterson, 33. I think it's a nice signing, but 4 years too late. Inside linebackers, Landon Roberts, 3 Super Bowls with New England, and Cole Holcomb of Washington. I think it's a slight upgrade over Robert Spillane and Miles Jack. When Jack was healthy, those two did a pretty good job. And then, but I really like the 2 signings of the offensive guards, Isaac Samalo, 6'4", 303 from Philly. Started all 20 games, only 1 sack, and also Philly guard who played last year, though, with the Jets, Nate Herbig. This connection, of course, with assistant GM Andy Weidel was with the Eagles for a long time. I think that's a big upgrade there with those 2 guards. Defensively, so-so.
We'll find out. That's for sure.
They lost their best guy, Cam Sutton, and went to Detroit. He was supposed to be a priority and didn't get him signed.
It happens. It's all the cap. They said this guy's great with the cap. This is it is. Colin, supposedly a magician with the numbers.
Sutton signed 3 years, $33 million for them. And then around the NFL, guys, so much going on. And by the way, Spillane went to the Raiders. Aaron Rodgers says he will sign with the Jets. Garoppolo goes to the Raiders. Juju Smith with the Patriots. The Eagles running back Miles Sanders goes to Carolina. Cowboys release Ezekiel Elliott. And Tennessee releases Bud Dupree after giving him a monster contract.
Well, sometimes you just have to cut bait when a guy's not living up to his contract. And it's
you got to
hard.
get under the cap.
And it's
so you
hard.
can't get anybody else.
Well, that's what happened today. You get the big contract,
It's
but if
hard,
they don't
yeah.
fill your lip, you're gone.
Yeah.
You're getting rid of you.
I
You know
think
what else, too? They give these long contracts knowing full well the guy won't be there the whole time.
Right.
That's why, once again, the opposite. That's why they want it up front, the guys.
Hey, guys, you know in your car you got that rear view mirror, see who's behind you.
Yeah.
But now the Penguins are looking in the rear view
They're
mirror.
closer than they appear, right?
Yeah. And, man, I'll tell you what, they're on the outside looking in now. After last week, I mentioned they were hot, 7-1-1. What
You cursed them?
Got 'em, man.
how many times this happens? Now they lose. They lose 4 straight. I'm watching them play last place Columbus. They lose 6-4 at home, and then got bludgeoned up in New York by the Rangers, 4-2 and 6-0. What is that? 16 goals in 3 games, and then come home and they lose to Ottawa 2-1. So, guys, 13 games to play. They just don't look like a playoff team. Sullivan, there's no more tweaking to be done with the lines, with the defensive pairings, and the defense just isn't good. And it's not just the goalies; it's the whole team defensive-wise.
Yeah, it's the Penguins, and I think they still need, I say it all the time, they need somebody to get in front of the net. They're getting up shots off, but the goalies see the shots. They need somebody in front of the net. Doesn't seem like anybody wants to go there.
Well, Solomon says they have to be in playoff mode, and they should have been in playoff mode about 10 games ago. Now they're up against it. Hey, we're going to finish with mentioning this. The Pirates and local TV coverage, Bally Sports owner officially filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, owing $140 million of interest payments. And under the Diamond Sports Group, there are like 40-some pro teams. So they've given the Pirates until March the 31st to reclaim their broadcast rights. And without that, someone's going to have to step in and do it, or you won't be watching the Pirates this year. That's where it is. It's a very critical situation.
The MLB's prepared to take it over. I don't know what that means.
No one does either. Hey, that's it for us. We've run out of time. We'll see you next week.
Armstrong has been a part of Butler County since 1963. We helped you get online with Zoom Internet. Our Breaking Bread program began fighting hunger in our communities. Enhanced Wi-Fi delivered coverage, security, and control of your network. Zoom Extreme brought internet speeds up to 1 gig to the community. And in 2022, Armstrong was named CableFact's Independent Operator of the Year for the 2nd time. When you support Armstrong, you're supporting your local community.